You know, you guys, if you were told to sit down and select one team this season that you think their level of expectations were risen more than anybody else across the entire league, I would think, at least in the sense of myself, it'd be pretty difficult in saying any other team besides the New Orleans Pelicans. Because I mean, well, with their late season acquisition last year in borderline all-star CJ McCollum, the return of their generational talent in Zion Williamson, who missed all of last season, and all while having Brandon Ingram seemingly forgotten from time to time in the mix of this as well, yeah, it's probably not too difficult for someone to understand why the bar was raised so high this season. And in case you haven't been paying attention, they've not only been performing up to their expectations in NOLA, but they've also been exceeding them pretty convincingly over the last couple of weeks. But with all of this, while yes, some credit has been given where it's due, there's still some specifics about this team that, while yes, they're being ignored right now, could end up catching almost everyone by surprise eventually down the stretch, so let's get into it. One sec though, guys, if you haven't yet, don't forget to like the video if you do enjoy, subscribe, and turn on those notifications to never miss another NBA video. But before we go any further, today's video is brought to you by our friends at AG1. AG1 is an all-in-one nutritional drink that I've recently added into my daily routine, as it's become the easiest way for me to meet all of my basic health needs. Because with being made from the highest quality ingredients and packing over 75 vitamins, minerals, whole-sourced foods, and probiotics into each serving, it's amazing in removing the hassle of needing to take so many pills and supplements. So whether it be in addition to your healthy lifestyle, to enhance recovery, or even just feel like a better version of yourself, AG1 might just be exactly what you need. And with this, if you go down to the link in our bio, you can get yourself a 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D3K2, along with 5 additional travel packs of AG1 for free with your first purchase. So once again, be sure to go down to the link in our bio to get your hands on the foundation of daily health in AG1. Now, to get back on topic with the New Orleans Pelicans, and more specifically, their extremely dynamic new Big Three that I think most of us were very anxious to see over the course of the offseason. While on paper at least, there seemed to be no reason to think why this trio would not be able to work seamlessly out there on the court together in due time. However, of course, as there typically are in the NBA world, there were still some critics out there trying to stir the pot of this team before the season even began. But so far this year, again, in terms of what we've seen record-wise and even statistic-wise, the Pelicans are very arguably playing the best basketball in the entire league. Because I mean, just from a Big Three perspective, it's hard to deny that Zion looks both physically and talent-wise the best he ever has. That CJ McCollum, while putting up the steady averages he has throughout his career on some pretty high efficiency as well, fits perfectly into this team's operation. And even with Brandon Ingram, when healthy, has brought almost everything to the table that you could ask from him. But that's the thing, because aside from the fact that these three have looked amazing together when we've actually seen them on the court, even saying we have a small sample size of them playing together would be a massive understatement. And yes, while the biggest reason we haven't seen these guys together is due in large part to the injury slate of Brandon Ingram for over half of this season, but now with Zion Williamson also expected to miss around a month of time going forward as well, it's got some people assuming the Pels are slowly gonna fall out of relevancy, with their star power just depleting more and more as the weeks go on. But the thing about the Pelicans, and I know we've definitely mentioned this at some point here on the channel prior, is that it really cannot be emphasized enough how underappreciated the rest of this rotation actually is. Because again, with both Zion and Brandon Ingram missing as many games as they have this far into the season, it's absolutely no coincidence that even without these two on the court, they're still one of the most effective teams in the NBA. I mean, just take some of their other starters and rotational pieces for example, and some guys like Jonas Valanciunas, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, and even Naji Marshall. Their averages across the board don't just slightly improve with their absence, but instead they go up pretty significantly, and the numbers would tell you this. And even their efficiency isn't really taking that much of a hit, and in fact it's even improving drastically with some players. And for any of you that would try to argue that these four alongside CJ McCollum are not going to be able to produce sustainable winning basketball for New Orleans, while this I do know is also a small sample size, I don't think you're allowed to make that case, at least just yet. But even aside from this new form starting lineup, it's not just like New Orleans has additional competent pieces that are waiting at the end of the bench, but even below these next guys up, we haven't had time to mention some players like Jose Alvarado, Larry Nance Jr., Willie Gomez, and even young guys like Jaxson Hayes and rookie Dyson Daniels. It's just honestly insane, because I know that even with all of the players I've named off so far, that I definitely still forgot a couple, but I'm gonna lose my breath if I keep going. Nonetheless though, I'm sure some of you are thinking, yeah, having all of these pieces is great, but at the end of the day, there's only 5 guys that can be on the court at once, so how the hell have these guys been able to keep New Orleans at the top of the league this entire season? And to this, I want to point out that regardless of players continuously popping in and out of this rotation, they've still, for the most part this season, operated their offense in the sense of running most of it through one of their 3-star players and sticking to it. And what exactly do I mean by this? Well, if you've been watching the Pelicans this year, most of the games you've seen Zion Williamson, you've actually been seeing point Zion, which, I mean, you definitely don't need to be a basketball expert to know that just Zion's presence on the court alone, along with his ability to drive to the basket, which not only leads to so many opportunities being created for all of the role players on this team, but also creates crazy opportunities for Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum when they are acting in this sense as well. But what some people don't understand is that now with Zion out of the rotation for the foreseeable future, right alongside Brandon Ingram, the offensive philosophy is not going to need to change much, and that's due in large part to the abilities of CJ McCollum. You see, the beautiful thing about this Pelicans team and offense is that no matter who is out there running the show, whether it's CJ, BI, or Zion, they all possess both the offensive creativity and the playmaking ability to have this offense operating to its strengths at all times. And you might ask what I mean by strengths. Well, if you want to talk about this team's 3-point shooting ability, maybe their pick and roll threat, or even their off-ball movement, it's honestly pretty difficult to narrow it down to 1 or 2 reasons as to why the abundance of role players on this team make the Pelicans so much more lethal than people give them credit for. And if you somehow still don't believe anything I've stated so far, I would like to think that the Pelicans having a top 10 offensive rating in the league right now, despite having just 10 games under their belt as a fully healthy team, would more than likely be enough to convince you, but if not, I guess we'll just agree to disagree. But trust me, you guys, while yes, the Pelicans offense has definitely been turning heads as of recently, this team might actually be better and even more deadly on the defensive end. And I mean, I would assume that most people watching already knew this team was full of defensive-minded staples and guys like Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado, Jonas Valanciunas, etc. But what I'm sure most people didn't know is that, believe it or not, last season, this team, at least defensively, was considered to be in the bottom tier compared to the rest of the league, which, and I'll at least speak for myself, definitely caught me off guard. But so far this year, it has been nothing short of a complete turnaround. And with the brilliant defensive scheming of head coach Willie Green, along with the chemistry on this team really being higher than anyone I've seen in recent years, they've not only all embraced the next man up mentality, but they've seemingly done the same with the defensive mindset from the rotational guys all the way up to the top of the roster. And if this team ends up making any noise this year, this improvement will undoubtedly be one of the biggest contributing factors. But will this, along with their successfully operating offense, be enough to push this team farther than almost anybody could have expected? Well, as with everything else we discuss here on the channel, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Nonetheless though, you guys, with everything we've mentioned so far regarding the New Orleans Pelicans, I am also extremely curious to hear what you all have to think about their situation. So please be sure to let me know in the comments what has been the most surprising part to you from everything we've seen out of this Pelicans team so far. And also, if you had to put a guess to it, what do you think the Pelicans record will be at the end of the season, and how far could you potentially see them making it? But again, you guys, if you haven't yet, don't forget to drop a like on the video down below if you enjoyed, and of course, subscribe while you're down there. As mentioned, we're going to continue to come out with brand new NBA content every single week, so trust me, you don't want to miss it. But also, I just wanted to say thank you so much to each and every one of you out there for watching. I appreciate you all more than anything, you all know this, and I will see you guys in the next video.